welcome to Distorted Opinions. I'm Kayla, and this week I'm joined by Ted, and we had plans to do a gear talk with Matt tonight, but Matt kind of forgot.
Plans happen. It fell through. Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah, so we're going to shift gears here a little bit, no pun intended, and we're going to do a different kind of gear talk. I have started unboxing the kit guitar that I mentioned in our last episode, and I thought maybe we could talk about that a bit. And
I'm actually happy to do this now because I want to see what this guitar looks like. Yeah, it's for those listening. We'll do our best to translate that because it is very much going to be a pretty visual type of discussion. So feel free to tune into our YouTube channel and hit subscribe while you're there because we certainly want all the subscribers we can get. And that at 100, we get a custom URL, and that is our main goal. But sneak, last minute gear talk for this, so we get to see and I guess hear what gets involved with this box kit of a guitar that you won on a giveaway, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
and it's a Strat style kit.
Is.
I saw you briefly just picked up the neck of the guitar, which is very much a Fender Strat style guitar neck.
Yes. So this is, if you're watching the video version, this is the neck.
It's a rosewood fretboard. Yep.
And I honestly could not tell you what the rest of the material is. I don't know if maple is the standard for like your typical kit guitar. So full disclosure, because I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this as an episode tonight. I don't have a ton of information on this. This is more of a like what comes in the box and what do I anticipate needing to do to this thing, and some of the potential issues that I'm going to maybe encounter or things I'm going to have to work through. So I don't know what kind of wood this is. I only know that it's a rosewood fretboard. It does not have tuners installed on it. No, not the frets are on it. That is it. So it comes with all the other pieces that have to be put on it. It doesn't even have a logo or anything on the headstock. So in theory, I could
make a Distorted Opinions custom guitar.
I could.
Maybe, it's your guitar. You do what you want with it, but
I haven't given it that much thought actually to be so I took it out of the box long enough the other day to kind of see what is in here and get an idea of what I was going to need to do and what potentially I was going to need for tools and those sorts of things. So if you look at the base of the neck, it doesn't even have the holes screwed into it. So
it doesn't even, you can't even bolt that on into the guitar body because there aren't even
correct.
There isn't even space for that yet.
I need a drill press or a drill. And let me tell you, so a side story, my neighbor Daryl, who we've talked about on some previous shows because he just released a couple of songs over on Spotify with someone else, and Keisha and I talked about it on one of the episodes we did. Daryl is big into woodworking, and I have not yet talked to him, but I am planning to talk to him because I'm going to be needing his expertise on finishing this thing as well as some of the tools. But he's been showing me how to use my dad's various power tools, like his saws and stuff, because my dad was also into woodworking. So he has table saws, jig saws, like every type of saw you can possibly imagine my dad had, because he built all kinds of things out of wood. So I'm sure I've got all the tools I need. I just don't necessarily know how to use them. But Daryl we started with the drill press because Daryl's all about safety. He's like, we're going to start with the least dangerous.
Absolutely.
And work
one
our
hand
way
motion
up.
And your hands are away from the business end of a drill.
Yes. So I got a whole safety instructional lesson from Daryl when we went over the drill press about not wearing loose clothing, tie back my hair, wear safety glasses, make sure my hands are out of the way of any of the moving parts before starting it up. Like there was a whole lesson involved in that. So of all the tools I'm going to need to put this guitar together, the drill press is one that I am somewhat familiar with, thanks to Daryl helping me out.
You're already on the way.
I'm already partway there. Yes. And luckily, this thing's already fretted. So I don't have to worry about, because I feel like I don't know much about fretting a guitar, but I feel like that's something that can be a little bit tricky, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You have to cut them. You have to, level them
sand
out.
Them down. Yeah.
Sand them down.
The edges.
Right. Yeah. There's a whole process to putting frets on a guitar. So I'm glad I don't have to do that aspect of it. And they market this kit as something that's really good for the beginner guitar builder, that you don't really need a whole lot of know-how about building it. You need a few tools, but other than that, it's pretty much ready to go. So
I am happy that they at least drilled the holes for where the nuts go on the headstock, because
the tuners. The nut, yeah.
Well, I mean, the tuners too, but I'm just saying, like the tuners in particular, like that's already pre-drilled. Right. I'm borderline shocked that it's not drilled on the back. They did the work on the one end, but they didn't finish it on the other. But
yeah, I don't know what the reasoning is for that. And I may find out once I get into, so it came with an instruction booklet on how to put it together. And I haven't looked through that yet. So there may be an explanation as to why these.
I feel like it would probably, based on how the body is cut, it's very important on how they line up together. And you can't, if you pre-drill one end, you're really, it's not going to line up appropriately on the body. So I can understand why. So you want to measure from what the body kit that that you have into that neck, but that makes sense to me. But but still, more drilling.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's not even, I'm sure, well, actually, we'll get into some of the other stuff that's going to happen aside from drilling the holes into the back of the neck here to go to the body. And if for some reason you didn't catch our last episode where I talked a bit about this, so it's a Wilkinson guitar kit from Stuart McDonald. And they do this 12 days of giveaways thing around Christmas. And I just happened to be the person who won. They team up with artists and guitar makers, and I won the giveaway from Ariel, who's a singer-songwriter, made her own custom guitar, cool looking, almost looks like if you've ever seen a Gibson Firebird, it's almost that kind of shape, and it's half blue, half red, and like very bold blue and red, not a subtle blue and red. Very cool looking guitar. So I won this kit from them, which is actually it's kind of ironic that I won a Strat kit, because I think I've mentioned on some previous shows, if you're watching the video version, there's a Strat that hangs over my right shoulder, might be left on the video, I'm not really sure, but that's my dad's Strat. It had Texas Specials in it, and he years ago got a set of EMG Kirk Hammett 81 pickups that were pre-wired into a Pickguard that was designed for a Strat. He had them in that, and then a few years ago, he decided he wanted to put the Texas Specials back in. So I have this Pickguard with these pre-wired EMG 81s that I've been trying to figure out, what am I going to do with them? Because I could pull them out of the Pickguard and put them in something else, but I have another set of Kirk Hammett pickups sitting around that are unopened in the box still. And I'm like, it makes more sense maybe to put them in another Strat. So I've got a Squire Strat that my mom got me a couple of years ago, and I had planned to put them in that, but now that I've got this where I've got to build it, I'm kind of thinking, well, gee, maybe I'll just drop the pickups into this instead. So with that, I'm going to take the body out of the box now. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to hear me, because I'm going to have to lean over behind me here.
Yeah, the microphone's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. We'll see how we do here. Oh, so as I mentioned, it comes with an instruction booklet here that talks about what comes with the kit. It says what you will need or what supplies and tools they recommend. They also include the StewMac item numbers where applicable, which is kind of helpful, because then if I want to go through StewMac, I can just look up the item numbers to figure it out. So they recommend obviously an electric hand drill or bench drill press, which cool. Perfect. I'm good there. A small hammer. Pretty sure I probably got a hammer around. An ESP multi-spanner, which I don't know what that is, so I'm going to have to look that up. Phillips screwdriver. Pretty sure I've got. understring radius gauges. Now, those I can pretty much guarantee you I do not have, and I don't really know what those are. A center puncher awl I might have. A clamp probably have. A soldering iron definitely have. And then there's a variety of different drill bits that they recommend. So I have most of what I need, but there's a few things that I'll need to get. And in here, they kind of show you how to assemble the guitar, how to put the tuners on it. They talk about the parts that are included. They talk about installing the bridge, how to line up your neck and body and bridge, which I'm sure is going to be a process. There's a section here on drilling your holes into your neck.
Which objectively, that sentence is ridiculous. Drilling holes in your neck.
Yeah,
it just sounds silly. Anyway, guitar speak, it's fine. Guitar building speak, it's fine.
The only place you probably want to drill holes into your neck.
Yeah, right.
Yes. They do say here it's important that the holes are drilled square to the neck, so a drill press works best for the job. That might be part of why it doesn't come pre-drilled. And like you mentioned, if they're grabbing a random neck out of a pile and a random body and they don't match up, that would definitely make sense as far as why they don't pre-drill those, because they may not be exactly the same. They talk about installing the strap buttons, installing the neck, soldering the output jack, installing the strings and the remaining vibrato springs, adjusting the truss rod, which I know people who do their own setups on their guitars. I am not one of those people because I don't know how to do this. I know the basic fundamentals, but I would never touch the truss rod on my own guitar because I have no idea what I'm doing and I'd probably just mess it up really bad. So by the time I'm done with this, I may also have some idea of how to set up my own guitars, which could just be a generally useful and handy piece of knowledge to have. There's stuff about intonation, adjusting pickup height, setting the action at the bridge, setting the action at the nut. So, I mean, this is a learning process just building a guitar, but there's a lot of really important things that I think I'll get out of building this. So,
Luthier 101.
Yeah, pretty much, without having to be cutting the shape of the body out of a fresh block of wood and doing all the other
Sanding
intricate things that go into it. So that's a plus. So this is the body. Oh, and I'm ripping the foam stuff that they wrapped it in, but that's okay.
Look at
body's same material as the neck. Again, I think it might be maple, but I'm not 100% sure. Comes with the pickguard with the pickups in it. Now, one of the things that I'm going to have to talk to Daryl about is I want to put those EMGs in. And if you're not watching the video version of the show, these pickups are like standard style single coil strap pickups. And if we remove the pickguard, you can see they've routed the pickup cavities in the body for these particular pickups. And the EMGs are humbucker style, and they're not going to fit in here without rerouting the cavity for humbucker style pickups. So
should be fine.
Yeah, I don't anticipate a problem, but that's definitely something
another piece to think about.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to be asking Daryl for help with that, guaranteed. I'm probably going to be asking him for help with getting the neck bolted on here properly too, because the last thing I want is to accidentally drill the holes in the wrong place or something and then have like either mess up the neck or just have it not look right because I didn't put them in exactly the right place. So
right.
I'm probably going to ask for just a smidge of assistance on this for the sake of not screwing up this entire kit. But there are a lot of things I think I can do by myself, like probably setting the bridge. If I follow the instructions, I think I'll be good with that. The tuners, the soldering, I'm good with. I know how to solder, so that won't be a problem. But I mean, I don't know how well you can see it in the video version, but it's a fairly nice top on this. It's kind of got a nice grain.
Good wood grain, top to bottom cut or visual in there, even on the back of the cutaway. Ooh, look at that. See, that is pretty. Yeah. It's just nice wood grain all around.
So part of what I was waiting, so I also got $100 worth of merchandise from Stu Mac, and hey, I'm wearing one of the shirts they gave me.
Not a sponsor, by the way.
Not a sponsor, but hey, Stu Mac, love to chat with you if you're interested. So I had originally been planning that I would maybe use that credit to get some of the finishing supplies, and then I found out I couldn't use it toward that. So, which is probably good because I really wanted to do more research on how to finish a guitar, because I know that a bad finish job can really make or break. Like if people see a bad finish job, I think they're going to automatically assume that it's a crappy guitar. And I don't want to have a bad finish job on this thing and have that be what people judge it on.
It's easy to judge a guitar by the finish alone.
Yeah.
Very much by its cover.
Right.
And I've seen some hand painted heavy gloss paintbrush that's not meant for painting a house, but used in such a painting of a guitar, and doesn't come out great, and then it looks kind of ugly. So finishes everything.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward, only because I don't necessarily have the proper tools to do it, and I don't necessarily want to invest a lot of money in the tools to spray paint a guitar, because if it's not something I'm gonna do, like I'm not a luthier, I don't
once off. Yeah, you're only painting this thing once.
Right. So I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money on spray guns and those sorts of things. So what I'm leaning toward, because I also think it might be easier to finish it and make it look good, is some sort of a semi-transparent finish. And where the grain on this is a really nice grain, I think that would be really cool, as opposed to putting a solid color on it, which was my thoughts on that were kind of dependent on what this was going to look like when I actually had it in hand and saw what the wood grain looked like. And I feel like it is a nice enough wood that a semi-transparent would work on this. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the last show, and I'm not 100% certain, but I'm leaning toward a very vibrant purple, potentially in a transparent, like a stain, because I've been seeing a lot of purple guitars recently, and I think they look really cool. And I think if I throw the EMGs in here, then it's kind of a cool looking metal style guitar, as opposed to your standard Strat, which Strats have a type of sound, and if you play guitar, you probably know what I'm talking about. And even if you don't play guitar, you probably heard it, and you maybe just don't know that that's the difference between a Strat and, say, a Les Paul. But this guitar, if things go the way I'm kind of planning with it right now, it's not going to look like
it'll be pretty awesome.
Standard. Yeah. So I think a vibrant purple,
with those types of pickups, and I'm picturing that guitar in that purple, and with that white pickup, and I imagine those pickups are black.
Yes, and they're on I wasn't thinking I would have grabbed the Pickguard before we started. It's in a closet over there that I can't quite get to right now. But
white Pickguard, black Pickguard?
White, but it's like a pearlescent. So it's not a straight white, like the Strat that's behind me has a white Pickguard. This one that came with this guitar has a white. This is like a pearlescent, almost like a mother of pearl kind of pattern on it, with the black pickups.
Nice.
And silver hardware.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that'd look pretty cool. I was thinking maybe on the paint front, perhaps, maybe instead of investing in doing a lot of the paint yourself, maybe there's some professional painter that you could contract to just do the painting for you, give them the color, and, talk about what it is that you want, because then you never have to worry about doing it yourself. And then you're paying for someone that does this all the time.
Yeah,
not saying like a car sprayer or something like that, but because wood is different than metal. But the concept of paying someone to just get the paint right, there's got to be somebody out there. Yeah,
that's true. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, there's the paint, and then there's also like the bigger thing is not even like, I feel like I could stain it myself pretty easily, because stain I think is a little more forgiving than having to spray on a paint. But lacquer is, I think, the bigger issue, because that's the other thing I've seen is people do their own lacquer on a guitar, and that ends up not making it look good either.
Right. That kills the finish.
Yeah. So yeah, I might actually investigate some options. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a surefire way to guarantee that it's not going to look like an amateur did it by the time I'm done with it, which I don't want that to be the case. Like I said, to me, the most concerning thing about this entire build is the finish, because the finish is what can really make a guitar either look great or look like crap. And I knew somebody a long time ago. My dad used to work with this guy, and I don't know whether or not this story is true or not, but his neighbor had an acoustic guitar that was supposedly owned by Chet Atkins. It was a Gibson. He gave it to this guy to restore, and this guy was not by any means a guitar restoration expert. And he was doing things like using black fingernail polish on the headstock and like baking it on. And I was just, again, whether or not it was truly Chet Atkins' guitar is a whole other,
just the damage alone.
Yeah.
Baking a wood instrument
with nail polish, no less.
There's so many things wrong with that.
Oh, yes. And it didn't look good. I can tell you right now, it did not look good when I saw it. I was like, oh, this is a crime.
Guitar went
honestly.
Through an emo phase before, unintentionally.
Yeah. This supposedly vintage Gibson acoustic, which, forget about whether or not it was Chet Atkins' guitar. A Gibson acoustic, especially a vintage one, those things are not cheap, and they're worth quite a bit of money. I mean, for a long time I wanted a Gibson Dove, and way outside of my price range, but I would, back when Mars Music was still in existence, I would go in and they had one, and I would drool all over it like every weekend when I was in there, but I knew I'd never be able to own it. But I just can't even, regardless of who the guitar supposedly belonged to, I just can't even fathom trying to do a repair job on a guitar like that, a restoration job, if I wasn't skilled to be doing that, and let alone taking somebody else's vintage Gibson acoustic and doing that and claiming to be competent enough to do it is just like, I'm telling you, it looked not great. And that's in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about finishing this guitar. That's what's in the back of my mind, is seeing what that guy did to that guitar and being like, oh, this is really not good. So yeah, I like the idea of seeing if I can find somebody at a minimum. Like I said, Daryl does a lot of woodworking, so I feel like he might be able to help me a little bit with figuring out the finish, but he doesn't finish guitars. So it's a different beast, and really it's the lacquer, I feel like, that makes it drastically different.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of layers, literally, when it comes to that. So makes sense.
Yeah. So it's probably not something that I'm gonna, I mean, at the point that we're recording this show, it's dropping in the new year, but we're recording this just prior to the new year. So I'm probably not going to get around to working on this until after the holidays, at which point I'm sure it's going to be a somewhat slow process just because I'm still kind of figuring things out. But my hope is over the next couple of weeks to figure out what I need for supplies and tools and get those things. And then I can start kind of getting into this and getting it put together. And hopefully it's not going to be terribly difficult. It seems like it's fairly straightforward. The big thing is going to be the setup.
Paint and making sure drilling. That's good.
And paint, yes. Yeah.
Paint and drilling. I feel like the rest of it will fall into place.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my little gear talk, impromptu gear talk for today. But I'm
excited to see what it turns into. And obviously excited to see the various steps and what would be involved. And hopefully you get your other set of pickups in there, and obviously need to clear out the inner cavity to make space for those bigger pickups, because it's not currently drilled out for that. So few steps for sure, but definitely be pretty cool to keep eyes on. And I think you just post status updates every so often as you hit milestones.
Yeah. Well, so I've been really bad about updating our social media accounts over the last few months, but once I dive into this, I'm sure there's going to be lots of pictures, and I'm going to attempt to video document the process and have like maybe I can post along the way some little videos of what I'm doing, but I'm hoping that I can do a full, like once it's complete, a whole video of the process of putting this thing together.
And then just like fast forward, and it takes like 5 minutes. Yeah,
basically. But like probably
hours and hours and hours just condensed into like a 5-minute video.
Not to do.
That's a gear talk for 6 months from now.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So yeah, that's the plan, is that I will video document the process, but at a minimum, I will most certainly take photos of the process, and I'll post some updates from time to time on our social media about how it's going. Because the other thing I also just remembered, aside from needing to drill out for the pickups, those are active pickups. So I'm also going to have to figure out the battery situation, which is either going to need to be take off the whole pickguard to get to the battery, which is a real pain. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure what my dad was doing when he had the EMGs in his Strat. Or I got to figure out a battery compartment solution, which I'm sure if I look around, there's probably options out there.
Space in the back, something you can do through just wire through, because I understand.
I'm sure there's a place here somewhere where I could, like maybe on this side somewhere.
Right, hollow that out a little bit without going all the way through, because that's the thickest point of the body.
Right. If I had my White Zombie or my Parker nearby, those also have active pickups, and they have a nice little on this side actually for both of them, which is
my 5-string bass has active pickups, and there's a battery pack on the back door on the inside of it.
Yeah, that's far more convenient, especially if you're at a gig or a jam session or something and you have to change the battery in your guitar, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, I got to go get my screwdriver and take out these 20 screws from the pickguard to change out my battery. Like
undo the strings to get up enough space to get, that's just a nightmare.
Yeah. It's not convenient.
No, if you're definitely going to make them active pickups, you got to figure out a way for the battery on the, without moving the pickguard.
Right. Yeah. I think, again, because it's a kit, it's not already built. I think that makes it a little bit easier, because this is an issue I would have had regardless of whether it was this guitar or if I tried to put those pickups into the Squire Strat that my mom got me. Right. I would I'd need to, I've never taken, presumably this Strat, my dad's Strat, would have an opening somehow for the EMGs. I don't know if the body, if you take the pickguard off of a factory manufactured Strat, if it's routed just open, or if they've routed it the same way this is, where it's,
because I've taken my Strat body off when I replaced the switch, the pickguard switch. It's routed specific, just like your kit.
Okay.
So
then presumably if that's the case, my dad's guitar had to be routed to be able to fit the EMGs into it, because he had those in there. So, either way, I would have had a situation that needed to be sorted out in order to do that. So, the good thing here is this is a not assembled guitar, so it makes it a little bit easier to deal with that aspect of, do I want to change this? So,
well, and you're starting from scratch too. So,
Right, exactly. So it'll be
and if you absolutely drill through the body, clear the other side and make a big oops, toss it in the fire pit, you've got your part number, and you just order another one. one part out of it.
I'll ask Daryl for help with that, so that doesn't become a thing. So when I looked up this kit on StewMac's website, it was on sale right now. They're having a big holiday sale, but typically I want to say this thing's like, is it $700 or $850? So it's
$850. Oh.
I mean, it comes with everything that you would put into a fully built guitar, except for you have to assemble it yourself.
Yeah, I'll save myself the $300 and buy a Strat sometimes.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't won it, I probably wouldn't be looking to build a guitar, just because it's not the sort of thing I have the know-how to do. It is something that my dad and I talked about doing several years ago. And we talked about either buying a kit like this or buying a cheap Ibanez or something and painting it ourselves and customizing it, or, doing something to make it not quite your stock guitar. And we just never got around to it because we would have had to invest in a bunch of stuff to be able to do it. But where I've won the kit and it's here, that's a big part of it is just getting the kit. Well, right, exactly. And now I've got a project to do. So it will be an interesting learning experience. I'm very excited to get it put together and be able to play it and see what it sounds like and see what it plays like. And because it's not an experience like going to a guitar store and grabbing a guitar off the wall and being able to see what it plays like before you buy it. You get the kit and it's like, you got to build this thing and get it set up the way you want it before you can actually do anything with it. So it's a process, but I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll enjoy it and decide I want to try doing another one at some point and I get some other style kit. I actually was directed to a YouTube page for a guy that does a lot of guitar building, and he also talks about finishing guitars. And I don't know if I kept his account opened up here, but one of my coworkers sent me the link to this guy's page. Hang on one second, because he's got a lot of cool stuff on there. And I was watching some of his videos the other day, and he talked about the channel is Guns and Guitars, and it is about exactly what it sounds like. It's about guns and guitars.
Straight to the point.
Yes, exactly. The guy talks about finishing guitars, building guitars. He builds kits. I watched a video. He had an aluminum body guitar kit with a carbon fiber fretboard that he bought. And I've actually seen these kits online and kind of wondered about them. They're not super expensive. It's like $300 or $400. The body is finished as opposed to this is not finished. And you basically just put the thing together. But apparently it's hit or miss. Like, this guy watched someone else's video and the guy's kit didn't come with a neck. It's like, well, it's kind of hard to build the guitar without the neck, but okay. So their quality control is apparently not great, but if you're looking for a cheap aluminum body guitar with a carbon fiber fretboard to build on your own, then it might be worth picking one up and taking the risk.
We'll give you the fretboard and you just got to put a neck on it.
Build your own neck. Here's a block of wood. So very interesting channel. I'm going to be checking that out because that guy, I guess, talks a lot about finishes and different aspects of building guitars. So that might be kind of handy as well. But it'll be a process. I will share progress photos and videos along the way if you want to follow along on my journey of learning how to build a guitar. Not quite from scratch, but mostly fairly close. Yeah. And so be sure to stay tuned for that. But on that note, unless there's anything else you wanted to discuss about this, I think we're pretty much at the end of the show here. And I agree. No song of the week because it's our Gear Talk episode, but we always put the link to the song of the week in the description of every episode. So if you want to go check out our past picks, the playlist will be linked in the description. And as a reminder, if you have an idea for a future show, or if you'd like to be on a show, or if you are an artist and you want to have us listen to one of your songs and talk about it on an episode, reach out to us and let us know. There's a few ways you can do that. You can go to our Anchor page at anchor.fm/distortedopinions. You can also find links to our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. you can head over to our YouTube page that Ted mentioned at the beginning of the show. Just search for Distorted Opinions on YouTube and be sure to hit the subscribe button while you're there. And even if you don't watch the video versions of the shows, if you just listen to the audio, subscribe, tell your friends and family to subscribe and check it out. If you're listening to the audio only version of this episode, hopefully we did a decent job of making it interesting and describing things for those of you that aren't watching, but you can go over to YouTube and watch the video version where you can see all the different parts of the guitar that we talked about during this episode. You can also send us an email at distortedopinionsshow@gmail.com. Leave a comment on any of our social media platforms. We'll respond to you pretty much however. You could send a smoke signal and we'll probably respond to you. So
I have my windows open at all times. So
there you go.
I will be scanning the skies. Any bat signal, any of the above. Yeah.
Sounds good. So Ted's on it. If you're the smoke signal person, Ted's got your back. So with that, thank you for tuning in to our impromptu gear talk about my project guitar. And we hope you'll tune in next week when we'll have an all new episode for you. We'll see you then.